Hello, welcome to my latest autistic blog, and this is a big one, this topic. It's maladaptive daydreaming, and so I could speak for hours about this. This particular webinar was that I listened to was in relation to ADHD, but until I watched it, I'd never heard of maladaptive daydreaming before. I'd heard of daydreaming because this occupied so much of my childhood. Then suddenly I was hearing it everywhere. The person who did the webinar was somebody, Dr. Sofa Dudek. She's an expert, and she was the webinar guest and described the imagery of maladaptive daydreaming to be addictive. And it's not a formal diagnosis, but a suggested syndrome. I have my sister sitting next to me, but she's not appearing on camera because I don't blame her.
Not.
Anyway, people with maladaptive, I thought she'd be interested though. She's very interested, so I hope, because we did this together. Anyway, people with maladaptive daydreaming spend a large amount of time daydreaming. It's defined as replacing human activity. People feel a need all the time to daydreaming, so they can't. People feel a need all the time to daydream, so they can't attend to work or other activity.
I'm doing it now.
They want to daydream all the time as it's so much fun and it's immersive. Now, I'm not sure what the situation is if you do this with someone else, as I did. Anne, hello Anne.
Hello.
As in make-believe play or escaping into a fantasy world with someone else. But this was me and my sister. We loved being characters.
Still do.
It began in childhood with our dolls and animals, animal toys, no doubt.
Yeah, there was a
Then-
lamb, wasn't there?
Yeah,
I remember
a
a
lamb,
Malteser?
Malta, my cat.
Malta the
yeah.
cat, yeah.
Then in our teens, it would be with
Choo-choo.
real people, such as our
Yes, but we had Granny
our
and
favourite, hang
pop
on,
stars.
yeah, then in our teens it would be with real people such as our favourite pop stars or people at school or in the family. So in the webinar, Sofa Dudek said the daydreams can be characters from movies or invented characters or celebrities. So there you go, we did that. She said the fantasies have a narrative. People can become very attached to the characters and can fall in love with them.
Yeah.
Anne and I know this. We can go one better. Our characters fell in love with each other sometimes. And some people have said it's similar to soap operas, as characters can
Definitely.
evolve over time. So the
Gradually.
so the characters can become parents and grandparents, and they can have them for 20 years. She said. So tick.
It's like Kieran and
We've watched our characters become
Cullen.
parents. I wasn't going to talk about individual ones, but
Oh,
we've
it's all
watched our
right.
characters become parents and their children grown up. So Sofa Dudek mentions maladaptive daydreaming can be addictive, and people caught up on it would choose to do this over seeing friends, and it can be addictive like gambling, and it can be behavioural, and people get totally absorbed. We definitely did this, but we tried not to be too unsociable. Some people use music to trigger the altered consciousness. People are aware of it. Although they'd conceal it in public, they're not psychotic, so there is a difference. This is what Sofa Dudek said. She said maladaptive daydreaming occupies hours and hours on end, and the daydreaming is vivid. But she explained it's not psychotic, as people know they're doing it. People forget about their environment. Anne and I did this. We would spend hours in our room being our people, as we call them, either having conversations or playing cards or listening to music. Gradually we invented our own characters.
and
Usually
they had birth dates.
yeah,
and
oh yeah, we knew
years
all their
and-
details, so we invented our own characters, usually a few years or a decade older than us at first, and eventually we dispensed with the real life counterparts, you know, the people we'd based on real people, we decided to sort of, we were more in control when we made our own people up, and they gradually got more details and more in depth, more sort of fully what's the word I'm looking at? Fully fleshed, fully fledged characters. Apparently, the maladaptive part is based to some extent on whether it causes a person distress or impairs functioning. And we wouldn't have said so. I wouldn't have said it was maladaptive. So I have a bit of problem with that word. Anyway, maybe our parents or relatives or teachers might have said it was impeding because we weren't living in the real world as much as we could or should. But that would be their words, not ours. Obviously, we had to go to school and socialise and later go to work.
I think we did it less at school, though.
Well, yeah.
Would it just been?
But the characters
it might have started at the end of my school. I don't.
Well, I was still at school, I think. But yeah. But we used to, even when we were little, we cut out all those little figures and we based them on real people, although we changed their names. The characters in Daydreaming was compensatory to some extent to make our lives fun, and so and to make up for the inability and social awkwardness in real life. Would you say? I didn't realise this at the time, but real life could also feed the fantasies and scenarios, so it had a very good function there. As well as fantasy being compensatory and giving back power and control, playing out different roles is important too. Apparently maladaptive daydreaming can also follow trauma. It can be related to anxiety, depression and OCD, as well as ADHD. As well as being addictive, it can be rewarding in the short term. Afterwards, some people apparently feel guilt and shame, lonely and embarrassed. But I have to say, Anne and I never did. Did you? But maybe that's because there were two of us. And the fantasy, in maladaptive daydreaming, the fantasy feels very real, whereas reality can seem unreal, grey and boring. Some people lose control and it becomes a coping method, a sort of escapism when anxious, and a compulsive need to immerse themselves in this daydreaming. Sofa Dudek said some people who today get the diagnosis of ADHD wouldn't get it, but would get maladaptive daydreaming instead. She went on to say that 20% of people with ADHD probably have maladaptive daydreaming instead. And there's also a connection with this and autistic children, so presumably adults as well. There's a very real comorbidity which can be used as a coping mechanism, although a lot of people don't like the term comorbidity. Individually, so in this is a quote from Atwood 2007 and Holiday Willie 2014. Individually and privately, girls with autism are known to sometimes inhabit a rich fantasy world full of imaginary friends, animals and creatures. In Sarah Hendrick's brilliant book, it's this one.
Is that the one you gave me?
Women and Girls with Autism Spectrum Disorder. I gave Anne this for her birthday and I've read it now.
Was it Christmas?
No, it was last birthday. She states, overwhelmingly what we see in girls is an unusual extreme identification with the characters in fiction books, TV programmes and sometimes people they know and feeling attachment to. The girls actually become the character. This may involve reenacting scenes from the book, film or show over and over again, mimicry and getting lost in the fantasy to the point of having difficulty in separating it from real life. And she said girls who do this, she found it was more of an escape to a better place from a real world that was difficult and sometimes unhappy. I think that might have been true to some extent.
I don't think we're unhappy.
But I felt
sometimes anxiety.
Yes, and also but I felt because we couldn't engage as much socially and be with other people that it was quite
and being cut off a bit in the suburbs.
Well, yeah, but also I think it was because we were withdrawn a bit, but it kind of came alive. Another autistic woman interviewed for Hendrix research. I haven't got long hands, sorry, she's put another autistic woman interviewed with for Hendrix's research said, the biggest universe I ever created originally contained about 100 creatures, but this is now over 1,000, as this universe has stuck with me throughout my life. This fantasy is a place I would often slip into as a child, especially when I wished to avoid other people. I had an excess of 60 imaginary friends, and I much prefer playing with these characters than interacting with anyone at all. In a thread on daydreaming, someone suggested that it's only maladaptive if it impedes on your life, which was probably covered earlier. And my feeling is too that it depends on how you define impeding on your life. I suppose you could say it impeded ours, although we tried to live a normal life in parallel, but staying in and being our characters instead of going out socially for the sake of it. I'm not sure that that's maladapted. I often use social occasions for feeding my fantasy world. Did you?
Yeah,
and that's not to say we didn't go out socially, but sometimes we couldn't wait to get home, as if going out was just going through the motions. Well, I'm speaking for myself here, and they say music can enhance it, and I'd say in our case music enhanced it in the sense of reminding us of situations with our people, or if our characters like the particular music. Some people, as I say, feel this business about shame and hiding it. I may have thought of it as something to hide when I was younger and something that we would grow out of, but this was mainly coming from other people.
Definitely.
I see it as creative and something to celebrate now. And because this is the Authism blog and it's about writing mainly, although I am going to go off on tangents, but relating this to the writing side, I wondered, wouldn't all authors fall into this? Don't they all sort of enact scenarios with their characters and have conversations with them? And it's a perfectly natural thing if you're creative. But also I feel that maybe having someone to share this with is a gift. And that's all I'm going to say this time. And
so, Kate,
thank you for listening. And this is far too long. It's 12 minutes. So anyway, I'd love to hear your comments below, or I'm going to put this on my blog and also on YouTube. Thank you very much. That's all for this time. Bye.